Guys, welcome to another. It's not really a course, it's more like a conversation. And I felt the need to do this because I was recently on a interview. I had applied for a head coaching job, and you know how these things go. If you've been coaching any amount of time, uh, and so I've been doing this. I've been coaching. I've been coaching like 21 years. I took off some time to try to care for my mom as she was in stage 4 breast cancer, and of course, she transitioned. And anyway, I came back into coaching. But anyway, I started back coaching football. So prior to that, in 2008, we started running the 3-5 or 3-3 with some. I'm going to say 3-5 for this particular um, discourse because I don't want to keep saying 3-5/3-3. So um, anyway, I was on a recent interview, and well, initially I got a phone call, and the person and I talked, the athletic director and I talked, and in that particular conversation, which lasted maybe 20 minutes, I was asked about the 3-5, and so I didn't think of anything of it, and we spoke about it, and he asked me some things about what I did out of it, and looking at my resume and looking at the things that we accomplished, or I should say that the defense has accomplished with the system. I guess you try to look at it in terms of, well, how does this defense stack up against other defenses or defensive systems, football defensive systems? So anyway, that conversation was over. I did get a 30-minute interview again, which I was asked questions, of course, and then the topic of the 3-5 came back up again. Not necessarily not just defense. It's one thing to ask about defense, but it's a whole other thing to keep asking about the same thing. So I kind of got the feeling. Oh, needless to say, I did not receive a second round, a second round interview, which is cool. That's how these things go. I've been a head coach before. I've been a lot of different schools, and if you're listening to this and you just starting to coach, then just get ready because that's how this business goes. But anyway, so so having that conversation, I felt the need to give what I call a discourse on several defensive systems. Now, you're welcome to debate me on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. I have a YouTube channel, but that's not necessarily for a debate. But you can reach out to me there. But you're welcome to debate me on this, and I'm making this free for a reason because I want people to chime in and tell me what their thoughts are. It's not an argument; it's just a discussion because, and here's why I'm doing this based on what that conversation was I had with that particular athletic director. When I first began instituting this system in 2008, because prior to that, in college I was in a 50. I played linebacker in the 52, and then when I got out of college, I was doing 52. Then I went to the 44, and then when I got back to Georgia, I started coaching offense. I had been a head coach before in Florida for a short while. I came back to Georgia. I was kind of tired, so I just was like, let me just coach a position. So anyway, I was assistant head coach, and I was in charge of running backs. And then I transitioned to defense, back to defense in 2008, and I started the 3-5, and I felt like it was an excellent defense. And also, people did not believe in the odd front in with that particular type of second level and back end players because it looked like it had a lot of holes in it. And the first thing that somebody said to me was it's a prevent defense. And unfortunately, a lot of teams found out in 2008, 9, 10, and 11 that it's not a prevent defense. And so as time has gone on, I have actually added to what I learned in 2008 because a team we played in 2001 was running it and we had never seen it before. Fast forward to 2008, of course, I start to understand that the way I like to run defense is an attacking style, and it does not give. Well, I try to not let the offense have any particular blocking scheme that they can stay with. Now, you may be able to get me one or two times, but we're going to keep changing within our system to make sure you don't have a beeline on players every single down. I believe in attacking the offense, trying to dictate the game, bring a lot of pressure as the game wears on, and just causing confusion on every snap. So anyway, that's why I'm calling this a discourse, because I'm not trying to prove anything, because if you looked at, you can go to my introduction to the 3-5 and all the free uh, parts will show you. So I don't have to prove anything, but I am wanting to talk about this because I think that the lack of the information about the 3-5 is really, it's really kind of sad. When you look at college football today, you see a lot of people, a lot of universities running the 3-5 or some variation of it, and you also see teams moving to it in certain situations. Now, I don't think it's, I think you can run certain defenses in certain situations, but I think you have to have something that you have started in January, February, March, and that you stick with, that you can always go back to. And one thing I can say about our guys that bought into our system over the years is that um, we can always default back to the 3-5 and the adjustments out of it. So I'm not going to go into the adjustments right now. I think I did a course on that, or a video on that. And so let me get started. Okay, so I'm going to start out with the 4-4, and I do have some notes here. So the 4-4, of course, I think it's a very traditional defense. It's great against the run, and you saw this defense all the way that it was prevalent, decades ago. It still is in some places, I guess, and I guess it can be a good changeup versus certain offensive sets, and I even use it in a variation, a type of hybrid of the 44 when I move some guys around. So the 44 is great, but it's vulnerable against spread systems, and it's just what I call an old school defense. And anyway, there are a lot of things you can do out of it, but I think that I may say this again. I think that a lot of people sit in a static defense. I think some people are trying to transition away from what I call a static defense. And what that means to me is just a read and react defense. They don't change. They just sit in it. And they probably can because they have the players to do that. I've seen teams with all Division One type players on defense, and they can just sit in one defense the whole game, and they dare you to beat them. Now, a lot of times it does come back to hurt them because they eventually run into a team that can match up athletically at every position. So the 44 is a great old school defense, but it is vulnerable to the spread. It is a good changeup. Don't get me wrong. All right, and then of course the 43. So the 43 is your classic sound, solid defense. It's also a static defense to me, because what I've seen people do in the 43, again, is kind of sit in it and just roll those guys around on the back end because they feel like the front seven should do most of the work. And they should. The front seven, offense starts up front. Winning ball game starts up front. I know in today's world, it's a lot of spread situations, but still, if you can't get the ball off, I was just watching the bowl game here a couple of days ago. It didn't matter what that one team did; they just couldn't block the front four. So if you can't block the front four, it's that's basic defense, basic football. But personnel could become an issue if you can't sustain that front seven all the time, just sitting there. Now, if you're going to bring pressure and do some, and roll the coverages around and combo coverage and that kind of thing, that's different. But what I see people have done in the 43 is just kind of sit in it. And personnel can become an issue if you cannot get what you need on the front seven is so important. The old adage, defense wins championships, and I misspelled safeties right here. Let me fix that. Defense wins championships. It's true. If I can stop you more times, you can stop me, then I'm going to win. So I believe in playing lights out defense. All right, let's move on. Now, so here we go. The title of this, old school defenses with new school names. The 4-2-5 is a hybrid of the 44 and the 43. I believe this received a lot of notoriety with the University of Alabama when they were running it maybe I don't, that's what I can remember when they were running it under Coach Smart, because it allowed them to have six in the box with with five DBs or five athletes that would come down and hit you. They could play in space, and they had the physicality and the mentality to play tough on the run, especially in the alley. So of course, University of Alabama and others ran this defense to perfection, and rightfully so. You had six guys in the box. You had two monsters up front at D tackle and two defensive ends that could bring it. They could pass rush. They could stuff the run. I mean, it's a tough defense to play against on offense, if you have the people. It allows you to have a lot of tweeners on the field. What I call tweeners, those guys that may not be linebackers. They could possibly play DB, but more so they can run around and play in space. It also allow for a lot of man coverage, and bring one or two guys every now and then on blitz. I think that old school people, did not feel like when we first started running 3-5, did not feel like a lot of pressure and a lot of different fronts was necessary. And a lot of times I heard the term, that's unsound. Well, but again, in 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, 2018, 19, 20, 21, people started to realize it's not unsound. Now, you're going to win if you have better athletes. That's just football. You can't. An old coach told me one time, he said, you're not going to win them all, which we all want to try to win them all. But back to the 4-2-5. 4-2-5 is a great even front defense that allows you to do some hybrid things on the back end, play a lot of man, and you don't necessarily have to bring a lot of pressure. If you have the front four that's necessary to do the job on every single play. And those two guys in the middle, two linebackers, if they can play, like I said, Alabama had those guys for a long time. They had two inside linebackers that just played cleanup. They were making All-American because the front four was just that dominant. Okay. The 52, which is a hybrid of the no, sorry. The 52 is the first odd front defense, right? That I was introduced to in college, and it's nothing more than you move some guys around, and now you have 5-man pressure every single snap. Now there are some things that you could do to enhance it, but look at it. It's kind of like the 43, whereas you're allowing your two inside linebackers just to read their keys, drop out on pass coverage, then run first, but they drop a pass coverage if necessary. You could drop a strong safety down the box if you need to. Now, you can do a lot of other things with the 52, but again, it's more like a static defense, except for the secondary. You can play cover 3. You can drop a safety down the box. You can even maybe drop an end to the weak side. But again, it's a traditional defense. It's kind of like the 44 because a lot of people just kind of said it. You really don't see too much of the 52 anymore. I haven't. Maybe some of you all have, but you really don't see too much of the 52 anymore because you have the other defenses, which is what I'm about to go to now. All right, the 34. All right, the 34 is nothing more than the 52. It's a hybrid of the 52. And so what I found was in running the 52, some people would be like, well, that's a 34. Well, to me, what I've seen, there's a school here in Georgia that's very successful. I'm not going to call their name. They're very successful. And I've seen several teams run this because what they do is they back those outside linebackers up off the ball. And so they can play. If your four linebackers, again, have finesse to drop in pass coverage, and they're tough on the run, and they're smart, and they know how to stop traps, and they know how to stop power, then it's going to be, because what's happening here is those three linemen are eating up your five blockers. So I win the numbers on that every single time. Well, more than not, more likely than not, I'm going to win the numbers game with the front three. And then my four linebackers, if they're reading their keys correctly and they're stuffing the run, then it's going to make it difficult because when you try to pull out of there and pass, then they're going to. So look at it. You got 8 in coverage unless you bring in one, which I recommend on pass downs, right? So the 34 is nothing more than 52, the old school 52. With you can bring guys in on the outside. So you bring your tweeters in or your guys that may not be inside. They may not have enough weight to play inside, but they're tough on the run and they can drop in pass coverage. And you bring those guys up on the outside, on the edges, and so now you have a hybrid of 52, and then you can do a lot of pressure packages out of it. I like the 34. A couple times I coached All-Star games. I ran the 34. I got in trouble because they were like, "Well, coach, you can only run a 52 or a 43." And so I had to bring those guys up on the line of scrimmage. That's really the only difference. But here's the thing: if you rely heavily on your outside guys and they're bigger guys, they're more like defensive ends, then people you bring them up on the line and just play tough, play football, and then hopefully, you don't get caught in a passing situation and those guys on the back end be out of position on passes, right? So that's the 34. I think it's a great defense, excellent stopping the run. Another thing about 34 is you can just play four across. You can play quarters. Most people don't like quarters because so the kids in quarters have to the DBs in quarters have to know what they're reading, match coverage and all that kind of stuff. I do think coverages have gone a little too far. We're going way into cover 8. I mean, hey, it's whatever, but I think basic coverages, which is what I'm about to get into here, really rely on if you really work your front 7, 6, 7, and then I think what's going to happen is you can run basic coverages on the back end and be highly successful. Now, here we go to the 3-5. The 3-5 combines elements of everything. It combines elements, and I'm going to show you why here in a second. The 44, your odd and even fronts. Because the 3-5 is the only defense where unless you move some guys around in another type of defense, where your nose and your mic are right behind each other. And I'm going to tell you why that's really a problem for offenses here in a second. But the thing I want to say about the 3-5 is that it allows me to show you 3 before the snap, and then when the ball snaps, it can become 4, 5, or 6 man pressure when the ball snaps. Now, of course, you got to practice that, and that's something that I do. The 3-5 also allows me to have 5 hybrid players on the field at one time. Now, if you can't find a Mike linebacker, you just got to find a real tough kid, and here's why. If you can find a nose guard, and you can, or a kid that's tough, you may have to rotate kid. And I do suggest rotate your D line out. If you have enough kids, I suggest rotate the D line the whole game. Because a lot of teams in high school even go, no huddle, going fast, short. I know one team, even though they went in the huddle, they were like 2, 3 yards from the ball. So they went huddle, bam, huddle, bam, huddle, bam. So it allows you to take that nose guard, right? And if I can teach my nose guard, which is something I love teaching, to take on a double team and not run around pressure, sometimes take on a triple team, then that Mike linebacker, those 2 stacks are going to clean up. Because now what I'm doing is I'm deleting your guard center guard box. I'm killing it. Because that nose guard, and we've been fortunate at Riverdale, the school I'm at currently, we were fortunate to have over the years in 18, 19, 20, and 21, we were fortunate to have a nose guard that was unselfish. He got to be unselfish. And my Mike linebacker, the 2 stacks, literally had hundreds of tackles. And the beauty of this is I can move the stack linebackers out on the edge of our defensive end. So now it's even tougher for the offensive lineman to reach them. I can move this defense to a 4-4. I can move it to a 52. I can move to a 6-2 if I want to, which I don't recommend a 6-2 because they break the front line and there's nobody there. I can run cover 2. I can run cover 3. I can run combo coverage. I can teach cover 3, which is, to me, so a lot of people don't understand the numbers. If I'm in deep 3 coverage, that's better than cover 2. Because think about it, 3 is better than 2. Some people are under the misconception that the 3-5 has a hole right here where we call the dogs are. That's not true. The dogs, you can adjust your dogs, which I don't have the time. I don't want to go into that right now. You can adjust your dog drops in pass coverage to eliminate the seam route and to also read the routes to cut off the slants. It's a beautiful defense because you can combine every element. Think about it. You got a stack here. In the 4-4, you got a stack. In the 52, you got 2 linebackers. In the 35, I got 3 linebackers. And then that's not even, I haven't even talked about every pressure package. 4-man pressure, 5-man pressure, 6-man pressure, and your corner blitzes and your rolling coverages. It's just too much it's too much for our offense to really get ready for. And I'm going to be honest, you don't have to have a lot of 4-star, 5-star, 3-star. You don't have to have a lot of that. All you have to have is kids that are tough, willing to learn, and gonna buy in. And the biggest key is unselfishness. They have in this defense is the least selfish of them all. Because I got just like the 52 or the 34, I got 3 guys up front. So I believe in winning the numbers game on the snap. What that means is when the ball snaps, I believe if we're talking probability, right? I believe that if a football game is 100 snaps and we're on the field, let's say we on the field 41 snaps, right? Out of every 10 snaps, if I'm winning the numbers game with your blocking scheme, if I'm taking 5 or 3, 7 out of 10 times or 7 out of 9 snaps, I'm gonna win. Now, does a kid get to the point of attack or get point of a tackle and not be successful? Of course. But again, if you looked at the proof, the receipts, 2008, 9, 10, 11, 2008, 18, 19, 20, 21. We weren't successful in 2022 because our kids got selfish. They got a little complacent. So anyway, let me go to my next slide. And this is the 3-3. All you do with the 3-3, you can, and the thing about 3-3, you can leave the same guys at dog. Some people call them spur and jack or whatever, right? Whatever you ponies, whatever you want to call them. But you can leave those guys in the alley just back, so it turns into a whole other defensive look for the offense. There was one game where I allowed my dogs to just do what I call float, and sometimes they would run first, right? They would back up, they would move up. So my thing is, I don't care what the scheme is, what the scout report is. When the ball snaps, you need to be where you need to be. So in the 3-3 and the 3-5 is beautiful because once you teach the basic fundamentals, you can allow your kids to be flexible. You have the flexibility to say, hey guys, listen, you don't have to, you can move around. But when the ball snaps, based on what we do, you have to end up where you're supposed to be when the ball snaps. All right, so here are the foundational keys to defense, not just the 3-5. Okay, players make the difference, not the scheme. Again, if you don't have players that are highly athletic but want to work terribly hard, then you're gonna be successful. If you have kids with a great amount of talent but don't want to work hard, then you're gonna put yourself in a bind. If you can show progress throughout the year, that's gonna make the difference, right? It's not necessarily the scheme. Now, if you line up in the 4-4 and they got 5 wide, then you in 4-4, they in 5 wide, and if you're in the 4-4 or some run heavy defense and you want to move your linebackers out in space and they're not good at covering space, then of course it's gonna be put yourself in a precarious position. Coaching the scheme can overcome athletic imbalances. What does that mean? Whatever scheme you run, if you work on your fundamentals every day, if you work on high level pursuit drills. Now, I'm not gonna give away my secret pursuit drills in this particular talk, but I may in the future. If you scout like crazy on once you know who you playing the next week or you know who you playing the next week, and you get a high level scout report and you make sure everybody knows what the opponent's doing, what they like to do, run, what they like to do, pass, who do you think the weak link is, who's their go to guy. All if your kids know all that, and then you get them in the classroom and talk about the possibilities, however you do it, Monday through Wednesday, whatever you do in the classroom, and then simplify your system. We simplified our system on our defense in 2019, and because before that, in 2008, I was doing stuff strong and weak, and I thought, that was 2008-19, right? Those guys, I think, were more students of the game. So in 2018 and 19, I realized that was kind of changing. So kids were more, it's too much digital stuff. So I said, why don't we kind of borrow from Auburn's offense, and we simplified it down to, we still did the same things, but we made it 1 or 2 calls, and that was it. And so our kids were able to play faster. And what that means is if you do all the fundamentals, right, you get your kids ready, they're prepared, and then you simplify your system. You trust me, you'll see a great difference. And they're tough now. The kids can't be, defense. You gotta be hit. You gotta hit. You have to be the hammer, not the nail on defense. So if you find 11 kids, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 kids that you can rotate, and they want to be physical, and then commit themselves to your system, and you simplify it, you're gonna be way better in next season or whatever season you're in. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't want to work hard. On defense, you have to be disciplined, you have to commit, you have to be unselfish. Selfishness on defense is a killer because offense you can kind of be a little selfish, right? You can throw it out there, guy make a move, you can hand it off, you can make some people miss. On defense, it's a unit, team, brotherhood type of that's the part of it, offense too, but defense more so because you're at a disadvantage with the ball snaps. When the ball snaps, you're at a disadvantage. I mean, before the ball snaps, you're at a disadvantage. Your only advantage on defense is after the ball snaps. Now, once you do that enough times and you impose your will on the offense, then you put yourself in a better position. So anyway, hopefully uh, this helps somebody. Hopefully I made my point for the 3-5 because in 2022 I'm still having a conversation about, hey coach, that's your baby. Tell me more about it. Why you do this? Why is that? It's only three. Dude, look at college football. Even some NFL teams, I see you running 3-3. They don't want to admit it. But the reality, and I've even seen some teams do some things I do on defense with the movement before the snap. That's another key. But anyway, hopefully this has helped somebody. And I want to say that you can, if you want to discuss this topic, because I'm making it free on purpose because I want to hear everybody's thoughts or however many people chime in. You can hit me on Twitter at Coach Max Woods, at Instagram at Coach Max Woods. Now, no cursing or it's just discussion now. How coaches can get. If you want to hit me on Twitter, Instagram at Coach Max Woods, and we can talk about it, and we can even get on Zoom if you want to. But anyway, until next time, guys, I'm going to make this free and available here in a second. Hopefully, you enjoyed it. And I look forward to speaking to somebody about it. And a matter of fact, I got a conversation with a coach here next week, just about the football in general. But thanks, guys. And until next time, enjoy yourself. Get ready for next season. And if you're in season, hopefully this helped you. If you just start coaching, hopefully it helped you. If you've been coaching 30 years, hopefully it helped you. And I really appreciate everybody that has purchased this and looked at it, and it jogs your memory, and maybe it's going to help you, institute some new schemes. Or maybe it's going to help you improve because it's all about improvement. Like my mother said before she passed, there's always room for improvement. So thanks, guys. Thanks a lot, and hopefully I'll talk to some of y'all later.